Released in 2018, God of War has established itself as one of the best action RPGs of the past decade. This bold title took on a risky departure from its fairly reputable beat-em-up style of gameplay and somehow managed to climb the ranks to even greater heights of success, making the God of War franchise iconic for two completely separate genres of gaming. The Santa Monica studio has undergone a transformation that most established game studios would crumble beneath the weight of, and deserve nothing more than my sincerest admiration and respect. With their newest installment, God of War Ragnarok, scheduled to be released later this year, I figured now would be as good a time as any to revisit this personal favourite of mine, which serves as an indication to the quality of game that we can expect from Ragnarok. As previously stated, God of War has evolved from its original air-juggling, combo-extending, beat-em-up style of gameplay. In this latest game, Kratos, the main character, takes a more precise and calculated approach to dismembering his enemies. You can expect to see slower, more heavily weighted attacks that offer a greater feeling of both impact and gratification in each encounter. When you start the game, you're limited to just a few select moves, but as you progress, the combat improves substantially.
How'd you do that?
It's my new attack, boy. Unlocking both new attacks and customizable abilities that enhances the experience as a whole. The system used for acquiring new skills is simple and yet effective. As you progress through the game, Kratos will earn experience points from a wide range of sources. Something even as basic as the reading of runestones will offer Kratos the XP needed to expand upon his arsenal of techniques. Then, a player can choose which abilities to unlock first, investing their experience points into acquiring different skills accordingly. I normally just pick the ones that look the most useful. On top of these skills, various abilities can be discovered through looting the chests that are scattered around every in-game location. In some instances, the ability to acquire new skills is directly dependent on a player's overall level, which is calculated from your armor and weapon levels. Therefore, to progress and unlock superior techniques in the game, a player must acquire better equipment. All across the board, God of War's gameplay met my expectations. The combat is precise and satisfying, while the leveling up system is easy to follow and effective. However, not every system is without its flaws. At times, the combat would shift from feeling razor tight and precise to floaty and frustrating. Here, the fault lies with the way that enemies unnaturally lock on and attack Kratos. At the more intense levels of difficulty, this can be really temperamental, so I advise anyone watching this to just stick to the easier difficulty settings, as these are no doubt the intended way to first experience God of War. Also, as I was spending so much time dying, I began to notice the way that Kratos just stiffens up and then falls on his back with every death scene. Going from playing Dead Space, where every death animation was really unique, to this is quite surreal. Especially when so much effort has been put into the killing animations, you would think that the animators would want some gruesome scenes for Kratos too. With the God of War reboot came a complete cultural shift. Instead of tackling Greek mythology, the new God of War games are instead set within Norse mythology. Now, the gaming industry is no stranger to the geographical changes in which games are set. Franchises like the Assassin's Creed games are known for jumping between different world locations with every new installment. However, to make such a comparison would be such a gross oversimplification of the incredible transformation God of War underwent. They don't just reskin armor, weapons, and environments like many of us have come to expect from our games, but instead, from the ground up, they have created a sincere and authentic world in which the new games will be set. During development, a research team took a trip to Iceland to try and gain inspiration from the wonderful landscapes they'd hoped to recapture. Everyone from the lead creative director to the actors to the artists all had a chance to experience such a dramatic contrast to the world they were used to working in, and man does that inspiration shine through clearly. The impression that trip must have had is clear, with God of War faithfully reinventing its aesthetics, bolstering visuals that are much better suited to the change in setting, far surpassing the amount of effort any other game studio would have invested in creating their game world. By modern standards, this game is in a league of its own. with beautiful scenery that's truly captivating. Performance is usually a tragically overlooked aspect of reviewing a game. It seems to me that most game critics are willing to assess that should the game just turn on, it then has a decent quality of performance. I am not like that. I have a much higher expectation as to the performance for my games, and for a studio to achieve top marks with me in this category, it has to exceed my expectations, not just meet them. Nowadays, most games companies are advertising higher frame rates like they're some sort of newly developed technology.
We're looking at frame rates up to 120 frames per second.
Wow, just a little bit shy of the 230 that I tend to get on League. It's hard to get excited about console game performance, which still at times barely achieves a steady 60 frames per second, which by now should already be the standard of the industry. God of War meets this expectation. Due to being initially a PlayStation exclusive, and therefore developed with console gaming in mind, it was never going to exceed my high expectations for performance. I'm not sure about the PC version of God of War, which came out not too long ago because I'm broke and can't afford it, but you'll likely find that averaging about 60 frames per second as well. Additionally, there are times when the combat can feel a bit weird, with animations clipping through the terrain, but these problems were not consistent enough to warrant much criticism from me. Overall, God of War is a consistent game that performs to the same standard that most AAA games are capable of outputting. Oh, we're in the big boy section now. Typically when I make these reviews, there's always one category that stands out to me significantly more than the others. For God of War, it's the writing.
I can enhance it for you right now if it so pleases you, son of a bitch. So what say you? Ah!
You are right. I do not believe you.
I explained it briefly in the intro, but I cannot overemphasize just how difficult it is to create something special from what was essentially a dying franchise. After their last game, God of War Ascension, the feedback from players at that time was quite overwhelming. Everyone was pretty much sick of Kratos, and the general consensus was that most people wanted him to be killed off, and so Santa Monica Studios were tasked with the incredible challenge of how to make people care once again for a one-dimensional video game character that people actually wanted dead. To their credit, they made the decision to bring back Cory Barlog, who was the creative director for God of War 2. I find that the best stories are personal. God of War 2 was previously written with the help of Cory's father, the unsteady relationship between Zeus and Kratos supposedly mirroring Cory's real-life relationship with his dad. No, he didn't kill him. Obviously, there are some artistic liberties taken here, but it's necessary to understand Cory Barlog as a writer in order to see where he draws his inspiration from. Cory was a completely different person from the man he was when writing God of War 2, a game that was originally intended to have come out exactly 11 years to the day before the initial release for the God of War reboot. Cory was now a father himself, and wanted to tell a more mature, human story for the work of passion that God of War would later grow to be. As he put himself,
gamers, I feel, have grown up the way that I have grown and the team has grown. We've all kind of moved to this next phase of gaming.
But there are more parallels to the real-life experiences behind the story here than just the lead creative mind, with even the actors and actresses having personal stakes in their performance.
Maybe by helping you, I'll make up for a lifetime of mistakes. Or maybe I just like you.
I mean, there's lots of different methodologies on how to be vulnerable in a scene or how to be connected to an emotional scene where your son is basically saying, you ruined my life, I hate you, I never want to see you again. It was right around the time of, I was going through a divorce, so that wasn't difficult for me to be in a space that was vulnerable and fractured and confused. Like, it wasn't supposed to turn out this way.
A lot of this performance, for me, is a love letter to my kids. It's an apology.
As two human beings, what are the sacrifices that you guys have to go through to protect something like this legacy, to have a secondary family?
I don't think I want to answer this right now.
Yeah, I have an interesting story. I think I might share.
By every measure, the written work behind this game deserves my absolute praise. Everything from the palpable performance that Christopher Judge gave us for Kratos to the funny wit and remarks from the dwarves all far exceeded any expectations I could have possibly had for what was once a shallow second thought of a narrative.
I also need lamb's cress. Do you mind? It's a white petal flower in my garden. Just a handful.
You better work,
Fine.
Kratos.
Lamb's cress. I'm a f***ing God of War.
It seems almost silly writing this final section for the review. I don't think I even really need to tell you the full extent of how they've succeeded here. Throughout this review, I've established God of War as a sincere work of passion that cannot be more heavily praised for its attention to detail. And now we arrive at the section set aside for attention to detail, and you already know they've smashed it. Other worthwhile mentions are the powerful soundtrack where the musical creator stated,
"It's so simple that I almost wrote it by accident. It was the last thing I did in sketching that theme. But I mean, I've come to really love it, and I think its simplicity is what makes it so powerful, and it represents Kratos. He's a man of few words. His theme should be a theme of few notes." Here we go.
Just remarkable thought and care clearly applied to the sound design. The side content and quest lines separate to the main game are near indistinguishable in terms of their quality and serve a practical purpose of outfitting Kratos with better equipment, no doubt worth exploring. And the game features a wide cast of characters and concepts, all holding true to real events that take place throughout Norse mythology. Just a deeply enchanting experience. I want this video to end emphasizing the amount of work and commitment made to us, the players, throughout the entire process of making this game. This industry is highly demanding, and these content creators endure years of hard work in game design for a product that might not even pay off. Financially, the decision to reboot God of War was a huge risk that was only a success due to the hundreds of individuals sacrificing the time in their lives to try and make something truly special. Working parents taking the time away from their kids, their family, to give a large chunk of it to us, people they may never even meet. They deserve every single bit of our heartfelt gratitude for delivering something that is actually worth far more than their asking price.
Okay, I've stalled enough. I'm hitting enter now, and thank God it's not on the front page, so I can stall just a little bit more. Information is not there on the front page of what God of War is yet. I'm clicking on games now. Holy shit.
I'm looking at reviews coming in. I'm going, oh my God, 90, 95, 88, and it just stunned. I hadn't even thought about the Metacritic score. I swear, it was just like, oh my God, you're right, a Metacritic score. And it started coming in, and it was really good. Then all of a sudden, we started getting award nominations, and I hadn't even thought about awards, I'll never forget this, the feeling of validation. Kind of just said, it's okay to go make another one now.